Part 2 of my conversation with Emily Wilson and a very hot take on this episode of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. Just go to FanDuel.com right now to get started. All right, we've got a lot to get to on this one. We've got part 2 of my conversation with Emily Wilson from the Sporting Tribune, where we actually go through a variety of topics on this one. If you haven't watched already, go back and watch the previous episode, which is part 1 of this conversation. My apologies with my voice. But yeah. On this episode, last episode we covered prospects, talked about Orange Country a little bit, and also talked about general outlooks, captains. This episode is going to feature more conversation about the defensemen, what that's going to look like, decisions that the Ducks are going to have to make in the very near future because the Ducks season begins in about a week, and also some goalie talk, some very hot goalie talk here, and also a little bit on jerseys as well. Without much further ado, here is the rest of my conversation with Emily Wilson from the Sporting Tribune, and it's going to go right to the end on this one. So let's go ahead and watch that right now. Gosh, there's got to be other names that we haven't mentioned. I mean, there's so many young guys.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, there's some defensemen who are going in their second season.
Oh my gosh, we forgot about the defensemen. Thank you for that.
Yeah, Lacombe, Zellweger. Like, I think those players will have some good season. You know, I think they all played well, I think, last season. And I think it's just more of like building on what they did last season.
I think so too. I think the young defensemen are going to be really jostling for those last couple spots or that last spot.
Yeah.
Because you have your veteran defenseman. You have Brian Dumoulin, who they just got from the Kraken.
Yes.
You have Cam Fowler, who's going to stick around.
He is here now. Yes.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And the captain, Radko Gudas.
Oh, yeah.
Who has improved. So you've got 3 spots. I think Urho Vakanainen is going to be one of those odd ones out for the Ducks because ideally you want to have 3 of the younger guys slot in. So I'll just list off like some names and you could tell me like which 3 you think are going to be like the top young defensemen. So I'm going to just go in like no particular order.
Okay.
Drew Helleson, Jackson Lacombe, Tristan Luneau, Pavel Mintyukov, who's injured, so we'll scratch that one for now. Noah Warren, Olin Zellweger. So out of those guys, who were the 3? I guess, yeah.
I will give my 3 who I think it will be by the end of the season, and that's
okay.
That's I'm a Luneau believer. I think if the knee injury hadn't have happened, he would be like a shoo-in to make the roster because he did last season, right?
Yeah.
And I would say Zellweger and Lacombe. Those are my 3.
Those are the ones I have as well. So that leaves Noah Warren out, which is a shame because he's looked pretty good.
Yeah.
In camp.
I mean, I think healthy competition is good, right? Nothing is ever, I mean, some things are set in stone, but there's still chances for guys to prove themselves and get called up, right?
So now I get to the $64,000 question. And this is actually like an important question because I feel like this is worth talking about. Mintyukov is out for right now. When Minty comes back, then who's going to be the odd one out?
I don't know. That's tough. I think a lot of it will depend on how they've been playing up to that point, you know. Like, I don't know if I can call it.
Or do they even bring him back?
Yeah. I'm honestly not sure. I don't have a prediction for that. I think I don't know. What do you think?
I got myself in a corner here.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mintyukov might wind up getting some time in San Diego to get like back in a playing shape.
Yeah, that makes sense.
After that, if he has a good, like if he does well in San Diego, then they'll want to call him back up.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, out of those three, out of Zellweger, Lacombe, and Luneau, I don't want to take out Zellweger because you need someone that's going to be responsible on the blue line. You need someone that's going to have great skating ability. You need someone that's going to have an active stick. So I wouldn't take Zells out. I wouldn't take Lacombe out because he actually looks like a good quarterbacking defenseman on the power play.
Mm-hmm.
He's taken over, and I think, sorry for the Jamie Drysdale fans, I think he's starting to exceed that role that JD had, which is going to make that trade look really good for the Ducks later on, by the way.
Yeah.
So Lacombe's looked good quarterbacking. And I don't want to kick Luneau out of that 6th spot. I really don't. But if it was like life or death, like I have to decide.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think he'd be the odd one out.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a testament to the Ducks, like, depth that we're even having the conversation where it's so hard to, kind of try to get rid of someone or send them back down. But
yeah,
I think it'll just depend on who's been playing up to that point.
It's a good problem to have, by the way.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd rather have too many good young defensemen
than not enough. Yeah.
Than what, I mean, I'll just throw the shade out there right now. The Ducks are in a better situation defensively than the Los Angeles Kings are. Which I'd be remiss if I just didn't mention this because it is like a NHL news story. Drew Doughty's going to be out for a long time with a busted ankle. So, and the Kings dilapidated their defensive pool for the Pierre-Luc Dubois experiment, which failed miserably. So I would rather be in a situation where you have too many defensemen instead of not enough defensemen like the Kings do right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't mean to throw shade. I don't.
But that is what's happening, right?
It's not necessarily shade. It's more of maybe a criticism for the Kings. They went all in on players that they shouldn't have gone all in on. And the Ducks have embraced the youth movement. Yes. Which fans should be excited about.
Yeah. I think younger fans too, can be excited about it.
Yeah.
Especially, I think they timed the rebrand really well, I think.
Considering everything going on, yes, they timed it perfectly. I think they knew what they were doing.
I would hope so, that they kind of have an idea with that. But yeah, generally, I think the Ducks are in. I've been convinced. I think they're in a good spot. And if I believe that 3 months from now, I don't know. But I think I see the light.
I see the light as well.
And now a brief word from Indeed. And we're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed because they have their instant match, which helps you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. They've got over 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And they've got 140 million qualifications and preferences every day. Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
While the Ducks do have depth defensively, the one area that they're looking to solidify some depth on is unfortunately the goalie situation, which has taken a big hit this month. 2 big hits, in fact.
So earlier this month, Tomas Sukanik, who was slated to be the number one goaltender for the San Diego Gulls, all-around good guy, he's out pretty much for the remainder of the season with a torn knee. Very similar to the Chris Drieger injury from a couple years ago. It took him about a year to come back. And now Gibby is out. John Gibson is out for approximately a month. The timetable is 3 to 6 weeks. We'll just say in the middle, approximately a month, which puts him back around Halloween. So now the Ducks have a tandem, and I never thought I would say this would be a tandem, of Lukas Dostal and Calle Clang, which means your starting goaltender now for the San Diego Gulls is going to be Oskar Dansk with Butaits as your backup. And then they have no one else.
Yeah.
Like, looking at the roster, they have no one else for the ECHL. They need help.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I guess in the meantime, yeah. I think generally Dostal is ready. Like I think he is ready to take that number one spot, at least for the next month or so. And my prediction is that he'll start a lot more than he did last season.
Oh, okay. Throw out a number. Just for the sake of it, throw out a number. How many starts do you think Lukas Dostal gets this season, and how many do you think he should get this season? Because we know those are two different answers.
Yeah. I mean, how did he got like 40 something last season?
Yeah, he started in less than half. Okay.
I think he'll get, let's say 55.
Ooh.
And
That's a hot take.
That is I'm fully bought into the Embrace the Youth movement. And
are you saying he swipes the number one job from Gibby?
I think that. Well, let me put out a qualifier for myself. Okay. I think if he shows up like I believe he can in the next month, I think he will start 55 games this season.
Oh wow!
I think if Gibson, like I think if he, I'm trying to phrase this right. I think if God, I'm trying to give me a second.
I know. I get like that sometimes too. I have to watch what I say because people do watch this.
Yeah.
While you're thinking about this, Lukas Dostal had 38 starts last season.
So maybe 55 is a little 50. It's a little high. I'm
a little less than half.
I'm gonna be bold. I'm gonna stick to it, but I'll give myself that qualifier. I guess that's more so. I'm hopeful. Maybe that's a little high for a prediction, because Gibson has been.
Those are number one starter numbers.
Yeah.
Full number one starters usually get about 55 to 60 starts.
Yeah.
So are you saying that he is going to be the number one goalie this season?
I think it would be wise if he was.
Ooh.
And I think that, I mean, it's up to him to prove that he belongs there. But I think from what I've seen last season, I think he's ready for it. And that's all respect to Gibson. But
I'm going to agree with you on that. Okay, look, I've been on the Dostal boat for the last 4 years, ever since his coming out party in the AHL playoffs. So I know he's capable. I know he can put a team on his back.
Yeah, and he's coming off like a great performance at the World Championships, right? So he's set to level up. Yes,
he won a gold medal.
Yeah,
he can walk into the locker room this season and show off to the rest of his teammates. By the way, look what Radko and I got.
Yeah.
It's gonna have the same Trevor Zegras energy from, I don't know if you remember the story from 4 years ago when Zegras won the World Juniors gold medal and he showed it off to his teammates.
Hey, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
I mean, look, you gotta have you gotta have the walnuts to do something like that in the locker room. And I think Dostal is ready. So I'm not going to go that much hot take, but
yeah.
I would like for him to get 55 starts. I would like for him to finally take over that number one spot because I do believe he's ready. Last season, he showed that he can put up some big numbers. I mean, he had a 50 save, I think it was like a 51 save performance including a penalty shot save towards the end. I'm sure you remember that game.
Yeah.
That game stressed me out.
Hockey is stressful. I think hockey is just stressful.
I mean, yes, it is, but there are certain games.
Yeah.
Certain games where you are just like pulling your hair and going nuts. And I know I'm going back to this one game in particular, but it was the New Jersey Devils game where Jack Hughes tried to get it past Lukas Dostal, and Dostal just kind of pumped his fist like, yeah. And that was a 50-plus save performance. So I think that was the game where I said, oh, he's ready.
Yeah.
What I think will happen, what I think is actually going to happen is the Ducks are still going to try to start Gibby as much as possible. And Dostal will wind up with 45 starts this season. That's what I think will actually happen.
Yeah.
Because the Ducks still want to give Gibby some starts, at least a lot of starts.
I think that's the more sensible take for sure. But I'm all in on the youth movement. I think
there's a difference between what I want and what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's real life. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you could believe in Lukas Dostal.
Definitely. I bought in. I'm a believer. But I do think the next month or so is going to be like time to show it. Time to show it like more than he has previously. And I think if he does, I'm hoping he'll get to that 55 number. But if he doesn't, then I wouldn't be surprised if Gibson is still the number one goalie once he comes back.
Ooh, I'm gonna throw some heat on I'm gonna throw some fuel to the fire.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and ask this question because you kind of alluded to something here, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask it. So the Ducks fans are gonna be, well, I'll just ask this. You're saying that John Gibson is going to be relegated to that number 2 spot probably this season. Does that mean that we might be seeing Gibson gone soon? Because there's those rumors.
Yes. I'll say that I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe I would say it would be a move that would make sense if Dostal is that guy. Like, I believe he can be. But if they decide to keep him on, I know trying to find a trade partner can be a little rough given where Gibson's would it be fair to say it's been a decline?
You're not wrong. You're not
wrong. And at the cap hit, I don't think trading him would be the easiest thing logistically.
Right.
But it would I do think it would make sense at a certain point.
Maybe after this season, because he's got 3 years left, including this year. I think if you wait until the following offseason with 2 years left, that's more palatable. I think that's a little bit more likely that they could make a move for him or to move on from him.
I think Dostal would have to cement himself as a number one, obviously, for that to happen.
So I think that's where I'm going with this. So if Dostal does prove himself and becomes that number one goalie, how long do you think we have of Gibby? This season, next season, is he gone?
I think next offseason would be a sensible take here. I think that I think you got to give him the whole season. I think that's fair. Yeah. I think you got to give Dostal Dostal could just not be that guy, and I think.
I don't believe that.
I mean, he could. I'm trying to be,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about it from all perspectives here, right? But
there is that possibility.
Yeah. But I think if I had to tie it to a prediction, I think next offseason, like you said, would be the time he goes.
Yeah, 2 years left in the contract. He's going to want to go to a contender at some point in his career. And I think that's going to be the time for him to do it.
Yeah.
He'll pull who was it? He'll pull Jonathan Quick and go to a hot team.
Yeah.
Maybe Gibby will want that too.
Yeah. I respect that too.
We're going to wrap up fairly soonish. So we'll be right back. We'll finish up on the other side.
And now a brief word from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And please, folks, gamble responsibly. Welcome back to our final segment of Locked On Anaheim Ducks with Emily Wilson from the Sporting Tribune. We've been talking for a while. Let's kind of end with a little bit of levity and on a positive note because we've talked about everything. How do you like the new jerseys?
I like them. I will say I like the commitment more than I like the way they look, if that makes sense. But like I like the fact that they have the angle, the marketing now. I like that. Okay. I do like the way they look. Just not as much as I like the other part.
What is it about the jerseys that you think could be better then?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not too takey when it comes to jerseys, especially hockey jerseys, but I like the orange. I do like the orange.
So I've seen some takes. Is it too much orange? Is it good? Does it look good on the ice?
I think it does. I mean, I'm biased. I'm a Giants fan, so I love the orange already. I'm also a Broncos fan, so more orange.
We won't hold that. Okay.
Yeah.
We won't hold that against you either.
Yeah.
Even though I have no football alliance, by the way.
But yeah, so I feel like historically I've been very pro-orange with the teams that I root for. Okay. So the Ducks being orange, I like it as a color. I think it's a good color for sports teams, like vibes-wise.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I like the way they look on the ice. So I talked with Steve Carroll after the rookie face-off, and the only issue that he personally has is on the away jersey, the white jersey, the orange is a little bit tough to read from a distance as far as numbers. The home jerseys look good. Yeah. I don't care what anyone says. Orange on orange. You know what? That looks better than I thought in game action.
Yeah.
Because there were some folks on Twitter X saying, no, put it with black shorts, put it with white, like choose a different color, not orange. I'm going to say this to you guys that are watching. I think you're dead wrong. I think the orange on orange looks fantastic on the ice. I think it's different when it's on the ice as opposed to in photo shoots.
Yeah. I like it when the top and the bottom match.
Same.
Aesthetically, aesthetically?
Aesthetically?
Yes, that word.
So you hate mismatching?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Wow.
It's not that I hate it. I just think it looks better when it's matching.
Okay.
So I guess that's my take. Yeah.
No, I can respect that totally.
Yeah.
I think with this particular set, I agree as well.
But yeah, I'm not super takesy when it comes to jerseys, but like that's kind of how I feel.
All right, what about the fact that they went back to Wild Wing on the logo?
I don't know. Is it bad if I don't have a take? Like
no, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
A for branding, A for like that aspect of it.
A for branding, okay.
Yeah, but if I personally like it, like I honestly like, I don't.
Yeah,
you know,
they are cool looking.
I think so, but yeah, I don't feel very strongly.
And finally, just to throw a little bit of levity, the Ducks are back at Honda Center. They're also playing a bunch of exhibition games outside of the pond, but just to have some levity, it looks like the boys are having some fun on the socials already this off season, and it looks like they're just loose.
Yeah.
Like they're ready to go, right? Like, how do you like how the boys are kind of like coming into this season?
I like it. I think everyone is coming in with a little bit more confidence than they had last season. I think some people are coming in healthier than they were last season. And I think like just as like someone who follows sports, I think having a good relationship like outside of like I guess the rink or off the ice is almost as important as what happens on the ice. So I think having that energy and having that I guess like brotherhood, so to speak,
Yeah,
I think that will translate for the games. And I've liked what I've seen so far.
I love how loose they look. They're clearly in a good headspace right now. Like,
yeah. And I also think that's just like a trait of Gen Z, honestly. Speaking as a fellow Gen Zer myself, I think like.
But not every team has this kind of confidence right now. Like,
yeah,
the Ducks are exuding a lot of confidence right now.
Yeah, I think they feel it. I think they know that this is the season.
I think so too.
And I think that Ducks fans should be just as excited as they are.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like not now or never, but we've got to show something this season.
Yep. All right, we're going to wrap up here, but where can the folks find you on the socials? Where can they find your work and all that jazz?
Yeah, so I have a Twitter account, or X, which is at E Wilson, and the Wilson has 3 S's in it. And then other than that, my work is just on the Sporting Tribune website. I cover the Ducks pretty regularly. But yeah, that's where people can find me for my Ducks coverage.
Awesome. And I guess I'll wrap up too. You can find me on Twitter X at StimpyJD, as in Ren and Stimpy, the Nicktoon. You could find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. We're ad-free on Amazon. We're also on SiriusXM. I just discovered recently, so that's cool. Yeah. And we're also on YouTube, so hit the subscribe button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, Emily, thanks once again for joining. Really, really greatly appreciate having you come on. And hopefully you come back on during the season.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me. This was my podcast debut.
Oh, well, feel free to visit anytime.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Always welcome.
Yeah.
For myself and Emily, how do I usually end these? For Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason Hernandez saying have a great rest of the day, afternoon, evening. Please remember to be safe out there. Please be kind to one another. And Ducks fly together. There it is. Quack, quack, everyone.